pictures that time, is there? All right, good afternoon. It's good to be back without a long presentation from me. First coach to introduce is the head coach of the LSU Tigers, Brian Kelly, who is a three-time National Coach of the Year, 2009, 12, and 18. He led Notre Dame to the BCS championship game in 2012 and 2 CFP semifinals. A little side note for me, I had to take dancing lessons yesterday. My younger daughter's getting married. My dancing lessons are not on video. Brian, though, has had his dancing ability on video. When he was asked about it, he said, when a five-star quarterback asks you to dance, you dance. And when your youngest daughter asks you to dance for a wedding, you take dancing lessons in my case. This is Coach Kelly's first appearance at a conference media event since 2009. Off the field, he and his wife, Pocky, she's a two-time breast cancer survivor, have a foundation named Kelly Cares that's donated nearly $6 million to over 190 causes around the globe. Please welcome LSU Tigers head coach Brian Kelly.
Good afternoon. Certainly a pleasure for me to be here at my first, as Greg mentioned, my first media day since 2009. I think for me, it kind of signifies college football is back. We can now point our attention towards that. And for me, all of my attention is focused on our LSU football team. It's been quite an interesting 6-7 months as I embarked on this journey, which has been exciting for me. It started with, the right time at the right place. The timing was right for me. The place was perfect. We had an incredible president, President Tate, an athletic director that I had history with Scott Woodward, and a rich history and tradition with LSU football. And so for me, it was then taking on that great opportunity in front of me to be part of restoring championship quality football to LSU. Also, the chance to be part of this incredible conference, the SEC. The challenges that come with that. Playing the great schools. I've never been in many of the venues. I'll get an opportunity to play at Auburn this year. I'll get a chance to play at Kyle Field, in the Swamp. Those will be exciting opportunities, something that I've never experienced in my career of 32 years. So the challenges of being in the greatest conference in college football, as well as being at LSU, is I've been asked many times why, and I can tell you that certainly that shared vision of our administration, the great opportunity to restore championship level football to LSU, and then the SEC itself, and being part of this great conference. For me, it's been, as I mentioned, an opportunity to put a roster together in a very short period of time creatively. We've had to use the transfer portal. We've recruited. We've spent a lot of time in player development, and we will then give everybody an opportunity to say, what do we look like here on a Sunday night against Florida State? And we're excited about that opportunity. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you, Coach Kelly. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Jack, Jake, and Preston will get a microphone to you. And again, please give your name and affiliation. We're going to start right here in front of us, Coach, about 5 rows back. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Colin Wilson with the Action Network. So when you took over...
Oh, there you are. Thank you.
When you took over Notre Dame in 2010, you had a new quarterback with Jimmy Clausen, new offensive line, and Notre Dame had some struggles out of the gate in September. Is there anything we can learn from that experience for LSU to be undefeated with Mississippi State, Florida State right out of the gate?
Well, now that you put it that way, I hope not. Certainly we have 4 quarterbacks. The spring really was for us to lay down our offense. We weren't really going to gear it towards any particular skill set. So I think I feel much better about the depth in the quarterback situation. Dane was really the only quarterback that had any experience. We were young and inexperienced at that position. I think the depth at the quarterback position is much different. Jaden and certainly Miles bring us obviously starting experience. Garrett obviously for me is an exciting quarterback. Walker's a true freshman, but there's great depth there. The offensive line is clearly an area that we need to keep our eye on, but I think we've added some really good transfers, and we think we've got some young men that have developed. So I would say that right now I stand in front of you that those similar situations, I like the depth and the opportunity to be much better than 2010.
Coach, we're going to go down in front of us here on the front row. Ron?
Yeah, Ron Higgins, Tiger Details. It's been kind of documented, maybe LSU or the collective of NIL of LSU doesn't have as much funds as other schools. How do you overcome that? And have you run into a situation yet where maybe you were outbid for a player? And how do you overcome that?
First of all, I don't know that we don't have as many funds. Nobody has given me, any kind of documentation that we're behind. I feel very comfortable, quite honestly, as I stand here, talking to you, that, what we're doing relative to NIL is as competitive as anybody else. I don't feel like we're being outbid by anybody. I don't think that's the place of NIL anyway. So if we were being outbid, then we're going to be outbid if we have $50 million in our collective. So I don't feel hamstrung by that. I want to continue to educate with NIL. I want to be able to use the resources wisely to help promote name, image, and likeness, and have that available for our student athletes when the time comes.
Coach, we're going to stay here in front of me, 3 rows back. Drew?
Drew DeArmond, WZZN Radio, Huntsville, Alabama coach. So much of coaching is teaching and then earning the trust of your players. How has it been with Miles Brennan, Keyshawn Butte, John Emery, those guys that maybe that are going to be the key parts of your offense? How have you earned their trust so far?
Well, I think trust is a two-way street, they're earning my trust too. I think, it works both ways. First of all, trust is about saying something and backing it up. And then, I think continuing that relationship. We're working on that relationship every day through deeds, through things that we put in front of them and say that we're going to do for them, and backing it up, and then asking them to do some things for us and seeing that they back it up. I think in all 3 of those cases, we're building trust. As you know, Keyshawn was just awarded number 7, which we consider, a program number that highlights the very best player, in particular from the state of Louisiana. And that has to happen when trust has been formed. Miles has been one of our best leaders in our program. John Emery's done an incredible job of bringing himself back into our program. So I think you brought up 3 guys that have earned a lot of trust, and we're trusting them.
Coach, we're going to stay right in front of him in the second row. Tom?
Hey, Coach Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. I wanted to ask you about your secondary, what you feel about the talent level there, and the 2 transfers from Arkansas, Fouché and Brooks, how you feel like they might fit in.
Well, let me address Fouché and Brooks. They have been outstanding additions to our program. I know many don't like to see that happen within the league, and I'm not crazy about it either. But these are 2 Louisiana kids that wanted to play at LSU, and they have been great additions. Character, I would say that, when we were looking into the transfer portal, we wanted young men that had SEC experience and had ties to the state of Louisiana, and Brooks and Fouché fit that to the T. And I think the secondary has a number of players that I think went out and recruited either through the portal or that were in the program that give us great depth, but they're going to have to go out and prove it. And I think that's an area that is going to have to come together for us, but we think we have depth and we think we have some talent there.
Coach, we're going to stay on my side, 3 rows back. Kirk?
Kurt Bowles from the Austin American-Statesman. Coach, I wonder why you feel like you're a great fit for LSU since you haven't been in the South that much. And corollary question is that what do you think of Texas and Oklahoma joining an already great conference?
Well, I think fit is about, the ability to run a program, at the highest level. I've done it for 32 years. I've had success at Notre Dame, Cincinnati, Central Michigan, wherever I've been. So, running a program and then, developing players, player development. I think those are the most important thing. And I don't think that needs to be, geographical in a sense. I've gotten to love where I'm at in Baton Rouge. I love the people. They love football. They love family. And they love food. And that fits me really well. So I guess I should have been in the South all along. I love the fact that Oklahoma and Texas, 2 great programs, are coming into the SEC. And, that speaks to Coach Sankey and understanding, the lay of the land and being proactive and having 2 great institutions coming into the SEC. We'll be excited about when they officially join to have them on the schedule as well.
Coach, we're going to go over to your side, second row, Glenn.
Hey, Glenn Gilbo at Outkick.com. Having been at Notre Dame for quite a while, would you be surprised if they joined a conference, or do you think they'll stay independent, and just what do you think of their philosophies toward that?
It's probably not been high on my list of things to think about. I've been trying to correct a slice for the last couple of weeks, and I haven't had much success with that, so I'm going to go back to my day job. But I would say that, certainly Notre Dame still is, a coveted, university in terms of, what conference would want them. Jack Swarbrick knows what he's doing. He's got his ear to the ground. They're going to land into a good position no matter what they do, whether they stay independent or whether they go into the, one of the other conferences. Notre Dame can carry itself pretty good.
Coach, we're going to go right here on this near aisle in front of me, about 3/4 of the way back. Go ahead.
John Bednarowski from the Marietta Daily Journal. Coach, B.J. Ogilari is one of our kids.
Yes, he is.
Was hoping to get your thoughts on your initial impressions of him and what you expect out of him this year.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I've gotten to know him as much more as a person than a player. Saw him a little bit in spring. He's a good player, too, by the way. But as a person, he's what you want to represent your program, and that's why, he's represented us, as our student-athlete representative in the NCAA forums. He represented us in our student, interactions on campus. He represents us here today because his traits are outstanding. His character, how he handles himself in the classroom. He's a leader, and I couldn't say more about the integrity and character that he has, and I couldn't look. We're going to talk about his ability to rush the passer and his prominence there, but I could talk more about the person than the player today, because that's who I've been associating myself with more on a day-to-day basis.
Coach, we're going to go all the way back on the left-hand side. There you go.
Yes, sir. Edgar Thompson of the Orlando Sentinel. Notre Dame played Florida State 3 of the last 4 seasons, I believe. Where have you seen growth in that program from the team from 18 you faced and then the last 2 under Mike Norvell?
Yeah, I think probably more than anything else, the fight in that team. I thought they fought for 4 quarters against Notre Dame last year. That was a team that obviously played to overtime. They were down late, came back. That has a lot to do with buy-in. You could see them playing harder and harder. Maybe that wasn't as visible earlier on. So this is a team now that has Mike's stamp on it. It's going to play hard for 4 quarters. You can see the development of younger players coming along, especially on the offensive line. Defensively, there's a structure there that is sound and fundamental. So I really just think you're just seeing the signs of a football program inside out, making the incremental progress that everybody wants to see more wins, but as a football coach, my eyes see a program that's been getting better and better.
Coach, we'll go back over to our right, about 3/4 of the way back.
Hey, Brian. Matt Baker with the Tampa Bay Times. I wanted to follow up on that. What are your thoughts on facing Florida State in the opener? How much of your notes from at Notre Dame kind of carry over, given that you're in a new position?
Yeah, a lot of them carry over. I mean, obviously we evaluate. They lost some really good players. Defensively, obviously, one of the better defensive players in the country. But certainly, we're relying on a lot of that film. And certainly player evaluations, I know a lot about, what they want to do offensively, though they lost their offensive coordinator. There's a lot of familiar, notes that we can go back to. But, we've got a new team. We've got new players. It's an opener. You kind of, you throw a lot of that stuff out because everybody's going to be playing at their highest level in their opener.
Hey, Coach, we're going to go on the near left aisle, straight down the middle. Here we go.
Hey, Coach. Chris Marler, Saturday Down South. Most important question of the day. In your best Southern accent, what's the favorite or best food you've had since you moved to Louisiana?
Well, understand now, I have a Boston, Midwestern, Louisiana accent now. So, it's 3 dialects into one. So it's no longer family. I got like all kinds of stuff to throw at you. So just be ready. The best, it's probably the crawfish etouffee is. I mean, I don't know how you top that. Now, I would say also the grilled oysters. If you haven't had grilled oysters, try that. That'll get your cholesterol level up really high quickly. That's pretty good too.
All right, Coach, we'll go over here to our right, alongside the wall, just right here in the front row.
Hey, Coach. Mitchell Summers with Fox Carolina. The SEC has really turned into the club that everyone's trying to get into, it seems. So from your perspective, as someone that's on the inside, seeing all these other teams that are trying to get on the inside, can you describe what that's like?
Musical chairs. And then the music's going to stop here, and you're not going to have a place at the table. And I think that's scary for a lot of universities. And, it's left a lot of internal conversations about, where do we go? And so I understand that, right? There was the question about Notre Dame. What do they do, right? Maybe they're better positioned than some. But, yeah, it's musical chairs, and there's not enough chairs for everybody. So, and that's the current state of college football.
Coach, we'll go in this middle section about 3/4 of the way in front of me, right there.
Hey, Brian. Jacob Goins from ESPN 106.7 in Auburn. Looking at the schedule down the stretch, a lot of tough road games in the SEC, at Auburn, at Florida, Arkansas. How does that, what's your mindset going into those road games in the SEC this season and in future seasons coming from Notre Dame now to the SEC?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think it's how you train your team. I mean, look, you have to be ready for a battle through December, right? You know, conference championship is in December. So if you're training your team just to get to the first week, you're never going to make it to December. So I think you have to have the end in mind first. And the end in mind first is December, and planning for those kinds of games in October and in November. And so I think you have to be very intentional about how you train your team, how you practice. All of those things matter because you're going to be playing big games in October and November. And look, you want them to be big games too. So let's be clear, right? What you do in September matters because, you know, October is important, or you don't matter in November. So I think answering the question in the fashion of training your team the right way and getting them there is absolutely crucial.
Coach, we'll go over here in our right middle section.
Coach Michael Giddens with the War Report, Auburn. How do you assess the physical readiness of this team to do what you're planning to implement this season? Are they physically ready from a strength and conditioning standpoint? And then as far as your quarterback situation, what are you guys looking at there? Miles Brennan, looks ready to go. You got Jaden Daniels. How's the quarterback situation looking this spring?
Yeah, I think our numbers look pretty good. You know, our GPS numbers show a fitness that will have us prepared for Florida State. We trained outside all summer. We have 2 more days this week, and then we're off. We finish up our summer program with 2 more days of training this week, today counting. So, yeah, we're healthy. I think our kids would tell you they feel as good as they've ever felt. Our numbers look really good across the board. And then as it relates to the quarterbacks, it's kind of similar to what I said to you, but to a number that have asked about the quarterback situation, is that we're really going to have to set the offensive structure in its installation to the skill set of the particular players. Because number one, they got to take care of the football. Number two, they got to get the ball to playmakers. I've got playmakers on offense that are already in place. So they've got to get the ball to the playmakers. And number three, you know, they've got to make plays, you know, that quarterback. So the ultimate decision-making on who that quarterback is, well, he'll have to hit those 3 notes. And I think all of those guys can do that. We'll have to put them in that position so we can evaluate that.
Okay, Coach, we're going to go back over here on the left-hand side alongside the wall.
How you doing, Coach? Scotty from All Script. I spoke with former alum Ryan Clark, and he's very adamant about the talent on the state of Louisiana. With your national recruiting, how do you balance locking down the state of Louisiana with the great players and balancing with other states that you've recruited out of Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, you know, making sure that you evaluate the entire state of Louisiana. And I think that means, you know, make sure you extend yourself. It's not just New Orleans and the greater Baton Rouge area. You got to get up north. You know, you got to get all the way up through Shreveport. You got to get up to Monroe. You got to get up all into the state of Louisiana. Now, that doesn't mean you just take a kid from Louisiana because he's from Louisiana. If he's not rated as high, then can you go out of state? Sure. But you better know the players in the state of Louisiana. And that means the entire state. And I think that's maybe where, you know, if I've gotten any feedback, you know, that maybe we needed to extend our recruiting efforts a little bit further north. And I think we've done that.
Coach, we're going to go right in front of me, about 3/4 of the way back, right here in the teal shirt.
Brian over here, josephgoodmanale.com. How much did the lopsided losses to Alabama play into the fact that you wanted to leave Notre Dame for LSU?
That wasn't part of my decision making. Those were really good teams. They both won the national championship. I thought we played Alabama better than anybody in that last playoff. Their talent, you know, was unbelievable on the offensive side of the ball that year. So that wasn't like, well, I'm taking the LSU job. Alabama was so much better than us. That was not part of the process. for me. It was timing. It was this place at LSU and the administration and the opportunity to bring this program back. It really had nothing to do with the Alabama game.
Coach, we'll take one final question here to our left, second row. Bob?
Right there. Hey, Brian, Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. I think I read this right, that Brad Davis is the only assistant you retained.
That's correct.
I wonder why you did that and what went into that thought process, and just what kind of coach you think Brad is and what he'll do with the O-line.
So Brad was the interim head coach, so I got a chance to see him in a different capacity, in much more of a, I would say, leadership capacity, where he got an opportunity to really touch all of the players, and I really loved his ability to reach players. And I felt like if he could reach all of those players, how well would he do with 15 to 18 players? Also, he worked for Sam, and I consider Sam Pittman one of the best, if not the best, offensive line coach in college football. And so he's been tutored under the best, played the position from Baton Rouge, just all those things together. And then my time with him and his want and desire to be part of LSU made it an easy decision for me.
Hey, Coach Kelly, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.